and welcome to God's Hookups television show. This is Dr. Barbara Young, your host, and this is a show that features up close and personal interviews with guests from all walks of life who share their stories about unexplainable blessings, successful events, and extraordinary miracles and encounters that can only be of God's hookup. You will receive hope, enlightenment, encouragement that will feed your spirit and your soul. Now, to my guest today. Well, hello, Julianne Rico Gerace. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Barbara. It is so great to be here.
And this is my guest all the way from Palm Beach, Florida.
That's right.
I'm so happy to have you on the show today. Welcome to God's Hookups. To my viewers out there, let me share a little bit about Julianne. She is a lawyer, leader, general counsel, recipient of several awards and honors, and has earned a special certification status by the Florida Bar. And she won't mind me sharing because she doesn't look it, 40 years of practice. And so this woman is phenomenal because she's recruited, guided attorneys, and helped them, educators and executives. And she's been a leader of innovative change. And I love her and influence. And more importantly, one of the things I am going to put a plug in for her because she's going to be leaving us. You don't mind, but you're going to share this in your God's Hookup story. But one of the things that she has done, she's created something called Transformations to Tuscany. Transformations Tuscany. So without any further ado, I want to welcome my guest again and have her share her God's Hookup story.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Barbara. And it is a joy, an absolute joy to be here. And thank you for the kind introduction. Yes, I have a God's hookup to share. And, we all have so many of them. And I know you've been blessed in your life to have so many. And I love this forum to be able to share these inspirational tales. But one of mine has been the most impactful. And so I'll share that little story with you. And it's kind of come full circle as to where I am right now. And so I'll tell you that in a moment as we go through it. So as you said, I've been practicing law for almost 40 years. I was a career woman and got married late in life. So I didn't get married till I was in my late 30s. I married a man who was some older than me. He had been married before, had many children. He had his family but was willing to start a new family with me. And I was so excited and so looking forward to having a child. And we tried and tried for almost 6 years. And I went to every kind of specialist. And I know so many people have gone through this and it's very heartbreaking. We had miscarriages and numerous tests and all kinds of medical interventions. And doctors from here to New York and back told me, you'll never have a child. And I went to acupuncturists and priests and everyone you can imagine to do alternative stuff to try to have this child. But I never gave up the idea that I would, in fact, have this child because I felt that in my heart of hearts, in my skin, in my DNA, in my spirit, yes, I was going to have this child, even though the reality looked so bleak.
Yes.
And my husband really felt like, he was getting a little nuts with this, to tell you the truth. And he said, look, we've been doing this, we've been at it. It's cost a lot of time, money, heartache. Let's take a break. He knew I always wanted to travel to Italy, which we had done on our honeymoon, and we had taken a few trips before that. And we had this antique business. And he said, let's go, let's take a break. We'll go there. We'll go on a buying trip. You set it up because I'm the organizer in the group all the time. So I set up this trip and I revolved it around a particular town that said on the internet they had this big antique fair. And that's really the reason we went. So I booked a farmhouse. We had this whole thing arranged to attend this town with this big antique fair, and that was supposed to be the thing. And it was supposed to get my mind off of it, and we were supposed to drop this whole baby thing. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I'll give it a break, but I am not done yet. So we went, and we stayed in this farmhouse that required this drive on this particular little small road every single day into town where this antique fair was supposed to be held. And working up to the time we stayed there a couple of weeks. So we'd go every day, every day, every day, and visiting the town and surrounding areas. And we would pass by the most nondescript square box, little nothing of a church with an iron cross in front of it. And for all of you who have been to Tuscany, to Italy, you know the churches are grand, they're beautiful, they're inspiring, they're gorgeous, they're ornate. This was a little square box, nothing, up by the side of the road. And I insisted, I said, I have to stop here. Stop, stop, stop. I must stop. So we stopped the car. He, was at this point completely humoring me. And I don't speak much Italian. I speak enough to get into trouble still to this day. And I banged on the doors. They were locked. Ran around the building. Everything was closed. I hear from the house next door a woman's voice. I look up, and it's this old woman who's speaking in Italian. She literally threw the shutters open, and she had her little scarf around her head. And in Italian, I could make out that she was saying, "Well, what do you want?" And I said, "Please, I want a blessing. I'd like to go into this church." And I sat there in my broken Italian telling her this story of how I wanted to have this child, that I wanted a blessing, that I had tried for years, that I really wanted to go inside this church and say a prayer for the family. And she shook a round of keys with these big skeleton keys on it and said, "I'm the lady with the keys. I'll unlock the doors. You come back at 5 o'clock." So I said, "Okay, we'll come back at 5 o'clock." And meanwhile, I'm telling her the story, and I'm just pouring down tears. And I thought to myself, "Oh, you idiot. Why you're telling this lady who doesn't know you this whole crazy story? They're going to think you're nuts, but okay, come back. We're going to come back at 5 o'clock. We'll have the prayer, and that will be that." And my husband assumed the same thing. We came back at 5 o'clock. The entire village was proceeding into the church, and these were mostly old people on bicycles, on foot, walking into the church. And we walked in. She took me by the arm, sat me down in the pew. And at the beginning of the mass, the monk, who was, a iconic, Franciscan monk, came off the altar, picked me up by the arm, brought me on the altar, and told the entire congregation, "This is an American woman. She wants to have a child. We're now going to say the rosary for her." And this entire town of people I had never known before in my life gave me this prayer. And 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 they all went along with it. They said the prayer, they said the rosary, we went through the mass. We finished. I went up to the monk and thanked him, gave a hug to the lady. Her name, I later came to know, her name was Nella Olivia. And we left. And I was just so moved. I could not get that moment out of my head, my heart, my spirit for forever. And so we proceeded to go about our business. We never went to the antique fair, by the way, because it was raining, and my husband was very stubborn and didn't feel like parking the car. And so the whole reason for going to this area, we never ever got there. We did make some friends on this trip. We returned back to the United States. I went about my business, and that was September, that trip. And by January, I found out I was pregnant. And my son was born September 29th, 2000. And every year we brought my son back to the town. We visited with Nella Olivier year after year until the time of her death. And we continued to make friends around that town. And fast forward to this September. I guess everything in my life that God is answering my prayers happens in September. I'm going to be moving there to join my son, who's now going to be 20 years old on September 29th. And we're going to continue our life together in this magical little town, which has been calling me. Um, who has been calling my son, called his spirit to existence. And I just thank God for answering my prayer, for opening the door, for guiding us there, and for continuing to guide me to this place and to this next chapter of our lives, to continue to do his purpose.
You know, this is such an awesome testimony, Julianne, of a God hookup and how he hears and answers our prayers. It's about faith. It's about being patient because I know it was, and as we sort of shared in the green room, that you were like the Hannah in the Bible that speaks of who wanted a child so badly. And she was praying outside of the temple, and the priest thought she was drunk. And so I know your husband is saying, enough of this. You hear your husband saying, enough of this. We've tried, we've done, enough of this. And let's just, call it off. And how God sends you to Tuscany, of all places. Do you surmise that maybe you got pregnant in Tuscany, or maybe it was after that?
I'm not, I think it might have been a little bit after that, but I think
Uh-huh.
that was the opening. I think that was I really feel that was like the trust. You've done everything else. You've done the medical, you've done you've done it, you've tried it your way. Now we're going to try it my way, said God. And I think it was just the trust, because at that point it was like, I don't give up, but I give I give over the control, because as an attorney, you may not be surprised. I'm pretty much in control, and I
Yes.
had the blueprint written for my life, and there were a lot of things that happened along the way that taught me that I'm not in control, and this was certainly one of them. So, what happened along the way was, not just giving over that control, but really there's faith and there's trust, and really taking that trust into faith, I think is how I kind of feel that it happened. And then as life continued to bring its twists and turns. I mean, my husband and I divorced. He passed away. I was left with a little boy, 8 years old. We continued our life. I was diagnosed with MS. I lost my job. I got a new job. I kind of reinvented our lives and moved forward, and just continued to heed the call of, you know these things happen in life, but you continue to have this purpose. You continue to stay on your path. You continue to answer the call. And that's why, I really want to help other women in our, about certain age and stage, like we are, to take, to open, to see those open doors, and to walk through, and to have that courage and faith
Yes.
and trust
Yes.
to answer the call, and to live your purpose, which I think, when you and I were talking in the green room, you shared with me, so many of your own blueprints are not necessarily the ones that God's going to let you build. There might be some other little additions
Yeah. Yes.
that are thrown in there, right?
Now, lately, you've had what I would call another God hookup, and following the Spirit of the Lord and having faith and trust, because you just did something which is pretty dramatic, Julianne. Do you want to sort of share that at this time?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So my son and I had this idea, ever since his dad passed away, that we would, somehow end up in Italy. We traveled there a lot, and so his heart was kind of there, and my heart was kind of there. And along the way, we've put little things in motion, to kind of get there. And he's been in school in Italy for a number of years, and I've been going back and forth, handling a pretty high powered job and a lot of other things. And when COVID hit, I was prevented from visiting him for almost 9 months now. And it really made me think, but I also, had my blueprint. I had my time frame, and it was going to be, in a few years, I'm going to this, that, and the other thing. And I had my list and my books, and, I had my little control list, right? But
Yes.
COVID hit, and in my contemplation and thought and meditation and prayer, I really heard and felt just like 20 years ago when my husband said, okay, let's give up on this baby thing. I felt that in my spirit, in my skin, in my DNA. You got to go now. And so I felt like, okay, this is the time. And I looked around and I saw what was happening. My career is in a great, great, great spot. So this was almost a counterintuitive to say, go now. But I resigned from my position. I have a few more weeks left to lead my team and advise my board. And it's bittersweet, but it is the time, and I'm going to go ahead and move and see where God is taking me next. But yeah, I'm resigning my position and moving.
It's
It is
so
very exciting.
exciting because, you're just taking a leap of faith. I mean, you had this baby and now the baby's, no, it's interesting to me to find that the baby is in Italy where you got the confirmation, got the
Yeah.
prayers, and now he's there and you get another. And, and I'm glad you mentioned this because sometimes people think that, God, it comes very strong, like his voice. Oh, it's time for you to move, where it is not
Hmm.
external, it's internal because we worship him in spirit. So he speaks
Right.
to our spirits, which is, I always tell people, it's your intuition. So you,
Hmm.
even though, look at the, people would say, I'm sure they did, Julianne. Have you lost your mind? You're at the top of
Right.
your career. I mean, you got it going on. I mean, you got this going on, that going
Right.
on, and you're leaving it.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. No, I was saying, and a lot of people said it's COVID. You're just crazy. You're having a little breakdown because you've been in quarantine. Like, once you get out and, just take a few weeks, go for a few weeks, go for a couple months. And I said, no, it is really time to answer this call. I mean, that's really, really what it was. It was like, it's time. And I've been saying that um, in my Transformations Tuscany workshops to women who have, we were good girls. We did what we had to do. We did our career. We stepped in line. We did our stuff. We shouldered our responsibilities. We did all these things. And then there's this moment that says, but you're supposed to be doing something else. And it's that, taking that, listening, walking through that door, taking that faith and say and believing that, okay, yeah, this is that time. It might not look like that. I mean, it might not look like I was going to have a baby.
Yes.
It might not look like this is the right time for me to go, but this is the time. And you just, you know have that ability to hold on to that and believe and allow yourself to partner with God to take you to where you need to be and fulfill that purpose. And I really commit to him, for bringing me all these blessings, for bringing me these answered prayers, for bringing me through all the traumatic points and crisis that, I'm going to keep listening and do that next purpose, be that person that I'm supposed to be, because I'm supposed to be doing something.
You know,
Something new.
I just want you in these last few minutes, Julianne, out of your heart, to speak to some of the viewers out there who may be at a crossroads, who may have prayers like you did. I'm almost in tears because I can feel that there are people out there, and what you could say to them to these last few words.
Oh, I'd be delighted. What I would say to anyone, um, of any age, any stage, man, woman, whatever, wherever you are in life, God does have a plan, and God does hold you in the palm of his hand. So whatever you are going through, whether it's the greatest moment of your life or the saddest moment of your life, God has you. And you know, don't be afraid to listen. Have the courage to listen, have the courage to take that step, and always know that God really has you and has a purpose for you. And although your plans that you've worked out in your lists and thoughts and ideas and dreams might be fabulous, there is a plan that God has, and it's there, and it's for you, and you will be all that you need to be if you just take that faith, take that take that opportunity to walk through the door that God opens for you, because and to see those doors, because they're sometimes they're hidden doors. Sometimes they're not that obvious, but stay in the faith and stay knowing always that God has you in the palm of his hand.
Thank you so much for that, Julianne. Certainly, you are a gracious woman, and I'm wishing you all of God's best as you
Thank you.
embark on this new journey. And for those viewers out there, I have been invited to Tuscany, and when this is lifted, the travel restrictions, I'm going to be over there because I want to be a part of what she's created called Transformation Tuscany, which is a program she has designed. It's a coaching practice. It's going to support empowerment for professional women of a certain age and status, and mostly some of those that may be in the 55 plus. So
Yes.
I'm so excited for you, Julianne. And again, thank you. God bless you. And
Thank you.
we're going to have you back next year because we want to hear maybe, 3 months, 6 months out, how you're doing and and what's
Perfect.
happening. Because we can capture you even in Tuscany. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh.
Next time we will be direct from Tuscany. I will share, and I will be delighted to. And thank you so much, Dr. Barbara. You are lovely, beautiful, and inspirational. And I am so glad that God hooked me up with you. Thank you.
Hooked up. This is almost like a hookup show. So anyway, for all of those of you out there who'd like to be on the show, you can contact me. Yes, you can at drb@godshookups.com. And for those of you who would like to follow me on my radio and television shows on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you know what? I'm at Dr. Barbara Young. You can reach me anytime. So I want you to share this show with your friends. This has been a very interesting show today with my guest, Julianne Rico Jurache. I got it right. I'm able to pronounce that. And so I want you to know that we love you, and I want to thank God for you. And again, God bless you, and thank you again for being on the show. And we now have to say bye-bye. Unfortunately, I hate to have to say goodbye. Oh.
Bye-bye. Arrivederci.
I'll have to learn how to pronounce that, but I will, Julianne. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome to God's Hookups television show. This is Dr. Barbara Young, your host, and this is a show that features up-close and personal interviews with guests from all walks of life who share their stories about unexplainable blessings, successful events, and extraordinary miracles and encounters that can only be of God's hookup. You'll receive hope, enlightenment, encouragement that will feed your spirit and your soul. Now,